Yo, what's up guys? Welcome back to another video, and this is another basketball reaction. It's been a few days because I took a break yesterday. I just sort of needed a refresh. But yo, I'm actually feeling good, man. I'm just excited to start seeing more videos that I've never seen before. And this one is 23 basketball legends share who they think the GOAT is. I mean, there's always a perception of who people think the best players of all time are. But I've never seen a video of players saying who they rate, like who they rank as the highest or who like the top players, etc. Just their opinions, really. I've never seen the players, like how they think about it. And yo, I mean, from someone who's a novice of the sport, I'm just interested in seeing, because I do like really appreciate your guys' sort of opinions on this as well. Because beforehand, I never knew who would be like which players and like just who was the best sort of best players of all time. Obviously, I knew the names of like Jordan, Kobe, and LeBron, etc. But I never actually looked into it properly. And yo, now I'm actually learning about it. I sort of know more. Yo, let's just get into it, man. I'm actually like interested. I say actually, I'm actually all the time. But I am interested in seeing the opinions of the legends as well. It's not just players; it's legends of the sport. So I'm guessing this is probably like Hall of Famers or just players who are of that level. Well, let's get into it and let's see the opinions.
Everyone can't stop talking about it. Who is the GOAT? Well, who better to ask than the men who played the sport? Some of the best hoopers of all time.
Shout out Jimmy Harrell, man. Best video.
What's up, everybody? It's Jimmy, and it seems like every day a discussion is held in regards to who is the best basketball player of all time. No, like this conversation is held every single day, multiple times a day. Honestly, how many times do I need to hear Skip Bayless's opinion on who the GOAT is before I slip into
Wait, Skip's he does that show with Skip does like the Skip and I see them on YouTube a lot. The guy he does it with is in a lot of memes. He got that laughing meme. You guys will tell me in the comments. Skip and someone else.
Full-fledged depression. And every time the topic comes up, whoever is speaking on the matter feels that their opinion and the facts that they state are always more justified and accurate than their opposition. So in an effort to end this narrative, at least for now, I have compiled a list of some of the best basketball players of all time and their opinion on who they think is the GOAT. Now, to start things off, if we're going to ask this question, we might as well start off with the man who most people believe to be the GOAT. Michael Jordan. And
yeah,
to no one's surprise, his vote for the greatest player of all
time
goes to himself.
Yeah.
He also knows.
Yo, you've got to love that though. When you're the best, and you are up there, people rank you as the best. To have that own belief in yourself, like you have to have that own belief in yourself to be seen as the GOAT or as one of the GOATs. So I do rate that.
The only player in the history of the game that might be able to beat him was a prime Kobe Bryant.
Oh, fair play, man.
Because he
Rest in
stole
peace,
all of his moves.
Yeah,
I remember him saying that.
Other than Kobe Bryant, because he steals all my moves.
In 1985, after going head-to-head with a rookie Michael Jordan, Larry Bird said that Jordan was the best player ever. This was the reigning MVP, saying that a 22-year-old rookie was the best player he had ever seen. Bird then backed up this statement again in 1998 by saying that Jordan was the best player in the world. Of course, these opinions came before some all-time greats hit their prime or even joined the league, but I am sure his 2 cents remains the same after all these years. In an interview on TNT.
Oh, my internet. What's happened here then? Wi-Fi just went out, and you probably saw just before I stopped recording, it sort of done a circle thing. But yeah, we're back. Buffering, sorry, but we're back. And I didn't skip anything. It's literally at the same point. It might be like 0.5 milliseconds ahead or something, but let's just get back into it.
Who he thought was the GOAT, Magic Johnson had no doubt that MJ is the greatest of all time.
MJ again.
No question, Michael is heads and shoulders above everybody.
The only thing I would say about all of this is the fact that the new generation weren't playing at this point. But maybe it will show these guys' opinions in the future. And this isn't me saying Jordan isn't the GOAT, because I'm not like worthy of even giving an opinion on that. I'm just I want to sort of put in like both sides of just sort of a fair sort of representation of the fact that they like half the players in the league now weren't even playing the sport or at the NBA.
Now, this next one is interesting. In an interview towards the end of his life, Wilt Chamberlain was asked who he thought the GOAT was, and he gave an answer no one was expecting. Wilt said that the most sensational, awesome, incredible basketball
Never even
player
heard of
I've
him.
ever seen was
Meadowlark
Meadowlark Lemon. Before making this video, I had never even heard of Mr.
Oh,
Lemon, but if he
fair
was
enough.
good enough to convince Wilt that he was the best of all time, that's pretty hard to argue.
Some
Bill
pretty
Russell, the
pretty
man
big
with more
praise.
championship rings than fingers on his hands, believes that Michael Jordan is the greatest
Of course,
basketball
man.
player of all time, saying that he cannot imagine anyone playing any better. Oscar Robertson's pick for the GOAT was a bit ambiguous. When asked the question, he did not give one player in specific. However, he specifically said that he does not think MJ is the GOAT, following up by saying, sure, he won 6 championships, Russell won 11. There are other players on these teams when they play. They don't play by themselves. Is Michael Jordan the greatest of all time? No,
At least he's
I don't
honest.
think he is. However, when asked about LeBron, Robertson said that James is in a class of his own. So I guess we'll give his vote to LeBron. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar said that he believes that Wilt Chamberlain was undoubtedly the greatest scorer of all time, but it is actually Oscar Robertson who he thinks is the best player of all time. Karl Malone, with what could possibly be a very biased opinion, believes that Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is the greatest player of all time. Being a big man himself, he felt that what Kareem did for the game of basketball was remarkable. Now,
his shooting technique is so mental. Like the way he does it is mind-blowing.
Has had a rocky relationship with some of these GOAT candidates, but he personally believes that Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is the greatest player of all time. But we aren't sure exactly what to believe when it comes to Isaiah Thomas's opinion on the subject, since he changes it so often. When he was in the NBA, he said it was Jordan who was the best player ever. Then a few years ago, he said it was Kareem that had earned the title of GOAT. But as recently as 2017, Thomas said that he believes it is LeBron James who is the greatest ever. John Stockton, like some other legends mentioned on this list, can't pick just one player to anoint as the GOAT. In an interview at ESPN with Skip Bayless and Stephen A. Smith, Stockton said that there are a lot of players that fit in the conversation as best ever, like Jordan, Chamberlain, Bird, Magic, and Elgin Baylor, but he never gave one player in particular. The round mound of rebound, Sir Charles Barkley himself, thinks that Michael Jordan is the greatest of all time.
Jordan's winning by miles right now.
He was the greatest player offensively and also the best defensive player of his era.
Well, I think the point that he touched on, Michael was, they're always trying to say, who's the next Michael Jordan? And they only look at offense. Michael Jordan was the best defensive player who played during our era. And that's what separated him.
Elgin Baylor not only believes that Michael Jordan was the greatest player of all time, but he also believes that there will never be another MJ, saying, I don't think there will be another player to have the same impact on the game of basketball as Michael Jordan. If you look up the definition of greatness in the dictionary, it will say...
Is that actually true? I'm going to search that right now, because if that's true, I mean, Google probably doesn't have it, but if you look up definition of greatness, this is just a little test, man. I know it's Google, so it's not the same. Definition of greatness. I probably won't say it here. If that's true though, or maybe it's not true, maybe it's just sort of him just trying to represent or show how much he is, like, just how good he really is. But if that's actually true, that is nuts.
Jordan. One of the oldest legends in the game of basketball, Bob Cousy, thinks that MJ was the best as well, saying he's by far the best since Naismith hung up the basket. He's the best without a question. Shaquille O'Neal, arguably the most dominant force the NBA has ever seen, believes the GOAT title belongs to Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan is definitely the best basketball player of all time. He's the greatest offensive weapon to ever play and probably the best defensive player we've ever seen.
Was he really that
in an interview in
all-rounded?
2013, Julius Erving was asked if LeBron James was the greatest player of all time, and his response was pretty simple. For him to be the greatest ever, LeBron has to surpass Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. He is the best to ever play the game.
Jordan's not in the conversation.
Dr. J's vote goes to Kareem. Jerry West, the logo himself, believes that MJ is the GOAT. In an interview in 1999, West said, I have to think he's the greatest player ever, not because of his ability to score, but because of his total game. To me, he's the best offensive player and the best defensive player in the league for a number of years. As far as I'm concerned, he's the modern day Babe Ruth.
I might do a, because what I'm going to try and make a percentage of who says Jordan, who says LeBron, and maybe even Jabbar, because he's got a few mentions of this as well. And I might just do a poll, like, so you can just click it and vote for who you think. Because I'm interested, because obviously the player's perception, and I'm interested to see the fans' perception as well.
Next legend is one with
Which is
another
you guys, of
interesting
course.
opinion. A few years ago, Scottie Pippen was asked who he thought was the greatest player of all time, and he said without a doubt that title belongs to Michael Jordan, saying, "We all know that Jordan is the greatest player that ever played the game." However, in an interview just last December, Pippen said that LeBron has surpassed Jordan as the GOAT.
Wow.
Clearly, as you can see here, this upset Stephen A. Smith pretty bad. But just a few days ago, when asked who he thought was the GOAT, he changed his mind and said that Wilt Chamberlain was the greatest player of all time.
Okay.
To say who is the greatest, we will never know that. I mean, in my eye, Wilt Chamberlain is the greatest basketball player.
So we'll just go ahead and assume Scottie hasn't made up his mind yet. Bill Walton, a great player and an even better broadcaster, believes that Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is the GOAT. In an interview a few years ago, Walton said, "Without a question, no hesitation, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was the best player I've ever played against. He was better than Magic, better than Larry, better than Michael Jordan.
Wow.
He was phenomenal." Granted, Walton's illustrious career at UCLA began just 2 years after Kareem left UCLA, and his opinion may be a bit biased. Kareem is his GOAT. Hakeem Olajuwon, another incredible big man, says that the GOAT is probably Jordan. When asked about the greatest of all time, Olajuwon said that Jordan is much superior than any other player. In 2012, Bob Pettit was asked who he thought was the greatest player of all time, and his answer was Bill Russell. "I think he's the greatest player who ever walked on the court. They say with 11 championship rings, he's the greatest winner of all time. Why don't you just say he's the greatest player of all time? That's what the game is about." George Gervin is another legend that believes Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was in fact the greatest player of all time. In a 2014 interview, Gervin said, "The greatest of all time to me, because, you know, that's who I played against, is Kareem. His dominance."
I guess like the fact that he says that who I played against experiences for these players, because most of these have experienced playing against each other. I assume so anyway. Other than obviously LeBron, because most of these guys are more of the old school players. But I like it how they're saying how they're sort of using their experience to gauge their opinion. So because they've played against them, they can actually understand how good they really were.
Accuracy was almost next to none. Real quick, you ever say a word so many times that it begins to sound weird? Goat.
Nope. Yeah.
Goat. Goat. Well, we're at the final stretch here, so hopefully the word GOAT doesn't permanently lose its meaning for me. Rick Barry believes it is impossible to compare players of different positions, but thinks you have to start a team with big men, and because of that, he chooses Wilt Chamberlain. "I keep hearing Michael Jordan is the greatest, and that upsets me. It's not fair to other players.
He's proper against that then.
You can't compare a two guard to a center. Wilt is the greatest big man in the history of the game, and you win with big men." I'm sorry, but clearly Rick Barry hasn't watched very much basketball in the last, I don't know, decade, but we'll go on. Lastly, Walt Frazier believes that it is none other than Wilt Chamberlain who is the GOAT.
Again.
In an interview with NBC in 2015, Frazier said that Chamberlain is on a whole different level. "If I had to pick a guy, it would be Wilt Chamberlain, because if you look at his records, it's hilarious. Nobody will approach any of his records." So what is the final count? Well, out of 23 NBA legends, 10 have Michael Jordan as the greatest basketball player of all time. Kareem had the second most.
So 10 out of 23. So that's basically, I'm not great with maths. 46, 92. That's around 42-43%. That's pretty crazy.
4, Wilt got 2 votes. LeBron James.
LeBron got 2
votes. And
wow.
Bill Russell, Oscar Robertson, and my man Meadowlark Lemon each received 1 vote. Keep in mind, 2 legends did not specifically pick 1 player. Now, take this information however you want to. But if this information tells us anything, it is that most of the best players to have ever played the game believe Michael Jordan stands alone as the best to ever do it. What do I think of this? Well, for the most part, I agree with them. Michael Jordan is simply in a class of his own. And I'm not talking about accomplishments or rings or any of that. I'm just talking about what I see when I watch the game of basketball. When he was on the court, he honestly just made everyone around him look like children. The man was simply better than everyone he ever played against. Now, I'm only 23, so there is a lot of basketball I never even got to watch. Many legends that honestly I can't really speak on because I never even watched them play. Yeah, I can and have watched game film and highlight reels, but it's not the same. same. But one thing I do know is that when I watch film of Michael Jordan in his prime, he has this thing about him. You get this feeling that when you're watching him play, you are watching the best basketball you have ever seen.
That's how I feel when I'm watching, and this is quite irrelevant to like this video, but when I watch soccer, that's how I feel when I watch players like Messi and Ronaldo, and that is just the level this guy is, and he's exceeded their level. He's obviously now, he's not played for like 20 years. I get what he means when he says that, man. There's just an aura and air around him when you just see him play. You're just like, wow, man. Like to have watched this guy play must have been something special.
I've never had that feeling with any other player. Not with Kobe, not with Kareem, not with Bird.
I'm surprised there's no Kobe shots, actually.
I do get that same sense of greatness when I watch this guy. When I watch LeBron play, 99% of the time, he makes everyone else on the court look like they don't belong there. And again, I'm not talking about accomplishments or rings, wins or lack thereof. I'm just talking about what I see when I watch the game of basketball. And yeah, I'm biased because again, I have never watched a lot of great players play live. So my opinion is only worth so much. Personally, I think Jordan is the greatest player to ever play. I think you can make a strong case for guys like Kareem, Wilt, Russell, Magic, and even players like Kobe, Bird, and Olajuwon. I also think that LeBron's story is still being written. His career isn't over yet, but for now, MJ continues to reign supreme. But the conversation is definitely interesting. In a poll released in December of 2017, basketball fans were asked how close is LeBron to
I'm interested in this, actually.
These were the results.
Getting the not even close. He's already there. Oh, so people are very, very split on it then. It is one of those conversations when you're talking about the GOATs, man. It's a sensitive topic.
Ranker, a website that conducts data from users of the site, has the top 10 looking like this. One thing to keep in mind is that a lot of these opinions were from 2, 3, even 10 years ago. That may not change much, but it is something to consider. Let me know what you guys think.
Obviously, LeBron
do you agree with these legends, or do you believe the real GOAT is someone we didn't even mention? Whatever the case may be, it's never too late to watch some of the best players in the game today ball out. And with the playoffs narrowing down, tickets can get pretty spendy, so what better time than now to use SeatGeek. SeatGeek is...
I'll skip that, but yo, genuinely, man, this guy's videos are so fun to watch. I just find myself addicted to them. They're just so like simple, but the way he puts them and just the way he structures them, it's just so fun to watch. But yo, man, if you guys have got to this part of the video, what are your opinions on this? And if you haven't already left them, just tell me like your opinions of like how the players rank other players. Do you think it's like, because obviously a lot of these things, like the things they said were said before LeBron had even started his career, etc. And more players, you know what I mean? But like, nevertheless, Jordan being ranked the highest, you can't really disagree with that. But yo, good video, man. I really do love seeing things like this. And please let me know more sort of videos that are sort of linked to players ranking other players, because I'd love to see some more of it. But yo, until next time, like, subscribe, and peace.